Liwei leaned close to her ear and explained that if someone came from behind and held her like that with the intent to harm, she should not struggle to remove their hands, but instead stomp on their feet as hard as she could. The pain would make them let go immediately. Amara nodded, and he told her to try it. She softly stomped on his feet, but Liwei urged her to step harder. Hesitant, she said she didn't want to hurt him. Liwei assured her it was okay, that his body was numb to pain now. Gathering courage, Amara stomped hard on his feet, and Liwei immediately released her. His face remained cold, and his body showed no reaction to the pain. He pulled her and leaned her against the wall, placing his hands around the wall to prevent escape. He looked into her eyes. Amara tried her best to avoid his gaze, knowing her heart would start pounding even more if she looked. But she couldn't resist, and finally met his eyes. Liwei explained that if someone pinned her against the wall like that, she shouldn't struggle, but relax her body. When the person was unaware, she should either kick them as hard as she could in their sensitive parts, or collide her head into theirs carefully, making sure not to hurt herself. As Amara prepared to do this, Liwei stopped her, saying he would feel pain in the areas he had indicated. Amara laughed softly, finding it funny, but Liwei's expression remained unreadable. He did not laugh. He moved her away and asked if she understood what he had taught her so far. Amara nodded with a smile. Liwei then walked toward her again, grabbed her, and laid her on the floor. He lay beside her, tightly holding her, making it difficult to escape his grip. That was the last straw for Amara. She could not understand the feelings swirling inside her. She wondered if he was doing all of this on purpose, whether he was unaware of the effect his actions had on her or was completely indifferent. Liwei leaned closer and told her that if someone tried to hurt her using that move, she should not show fear. Instead, she should lean in and bite their neck or ear as hard as she could. The pain would force them to let go immediately. Amara nodded, eager for him to release her. He asked if she understood, but unable to contain herself, she pushed him aside and questioned whether he was doing everything on purpose. In a firm voice, Liwei told her he was trying to help her. But Amara argued that this was not how one helped someone, especially a girl, and that he was clearly doing it deliberately. Liwei chuckled softly and told her to clear her mind. Since she was moving out and their paths would soon separate, he was teaching her survival skills. Once she left, their encounters would end, and he would no longer be involved in her life. Amara looked at him, hurt despite knowing she shouldn't be. His words cut deep. She understood that eventually they would have to go their separate ways, as he had said. Liwei rose to his feet and told her she needed to put what he had taught her into practice because she never knew what dangers awaited her. He added that she can pay back the debt she owed him by surviving and not letting herself get in danger again. With that, he walked away, leaving Amara sitting alone. Later, Amara entered her room and immediately spotted an envelope and a small paper bag on the bed. She picked up the bag and looked inside to find self-defense essentials like pepper sprays and tasers. She thought about how thoughtful Liwei had been to get these for her. She had initially assumed he was relieved to finally get her out of his house, but the effort he made showed her that some humanity and emotion still existed inside him. She grabbed the envelope and carefully pulled out a document. Her eyes widened in surprise as she read it. She had been granted a scholarship to pursue medicine at East University. She read the letter over and over to make sure it was real. Standing there, she couldn't believe that her dream, one she thought was lost forever, was finally coming true. A huge smile spread across her face as she jumped up and down with excitement. She told her mother that she had finally made it, and that she was going to study hard to become the best doctor to ever grace the earth. Glancing again at the letter, she remembered how she had lost the scholarship before and wondered if Liwei had pulled strings to help her. She thought about how, despite his cold exterior, he was a good person inside, afraid or unwilling to show it. Wanting to thank him for making her dream come true, she rushed to his bedroom and knocked. There was no answer. She knocked again, still no response. Impatient, she opened the door and immediately saw him standing there, wrapped only in a towel, fresh from the shower. Her heart nearly stopped at the sight. She quickly turned away, feeling shy, and covered her face with both hands. Liwei chuckled lightly as he walked toward Amara. Standing behind her, he reminded her of the boundaries he had set, questioning if she had forgotten his warning about entering rooms she was not supposed to. Amara, her voice unsteady and her gaze fixed away from him, explained that she had only come to express her gratitude for the scholarship, emphasizing how much it meant to her. Liwei made it clear that his actions were not born of kindness, but rather a desire to see her leave his house. Amara nodded quickly, eager to escape the tension in the room, and hurried out without once looking back. Liwei watched her close the door, a faint smirk playing on his lips at how naive she seemed. The next day, Liwei sat in the living room, fully absorbed in his reading, when Amara appeared. She approached him slowly and announced that she was leaving for the university, having secured accommodation on campus. Without glancing up, Liwei simply nodded, showing no interest in prolonging the exchange. Amara lingered, wondering if he would at least acknowledge her departure with some sign of farewell, given that they had lived under the same roof. His cold demeanor gave her no such comfort. She expressed her gratitude once more, assuring herself that she would never forget his help, and vowed that if he ever needed her assistance in the future, she would not hesitate to offer it. When Liwei finally looked at her, his expression remained unreadable. He remarked that their time together was ending and implied that, even if they met again in the future, she should forget everything that had transpired between them. There was no need for her to feel indebted or to attempt to repay him. With that, he returned his attention to his book, dismissing her presence entirely. Realizing her cab had arrived, Amara gave him one last glance before walking away. He did not look up. As she stepped into the cab, she turned toward the house, half expecting him to come out and bid her a proper goodbye. When he didn't, she let out a quiet laugh, chiding herself for expecting warmth from someone so cold. She knew Liwei was the most emotionally distant person she had ever met, and hoping for sentiment from him was as impossible as convincing the world that horses could fly. Still, a small wave of sadness washed over her at the thought that their paths were parting for good. She reminded herself that this was her opportunity for a fresh start, a chance to work hard, focus, and achieve the dreams she had always carried within her. Perhaps Liwei was simply someone she was meant to meet for a reason, not a person meant to remain in her life. He had been a chapter in her journey, not the whole story. The cab began to pull away, carrying her toward her new life. Meanwhile, Liwei stood silently on the balcony, his gaze fixed on the vehicle as it moved down the road. He watched without blinking until it vanished from sight, his eyes locked on the last trace of it. A quiet thought settled in his mind. At last, there would be no more distractions, no more threats to his mission. Keeping her close had almost made him forget his purpose, softening him in ways he could not afford. He could not allow himself to become human in the ways that mattered most, not when there were far greater tasks ahead. Once the cab had disappeared completely into the distance, he turned away from the balcony, walked back inside, and sat down in silence for a moment. Then, without hesitation, he resumed exactly what he had been doing before, as if nothing at all had changed.